All right, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to the stream. I'm Ian Douglas. I'm the author of this website, Tech Interview Guide. Welcome. And tonight we've got yet another guest on our stream. I love having folks on the stream that can kind of help share their backgrounds and share sort of their path into tech and you know what interests them. And tonight we've got someone a little bit different on the stream. So please welcome Esteban Dalal. Esteban is a CTO and a co-founder of a startup based down in Colombia, down in South America. And we connected on Polywork, and we chatted a little bit about, like, you know, what can you chat about on the live stream to help people out. And so I got like a whole bunch of questions to ask around, like, I mean, most of my career has honestly been in startups, so you know, I can probably guess at what a lot of the answers are. So you'll probably see me nodding my head a lot as I ask these questions and you answer them. But you know, what kinds of things stand out to people that want to get a job at a startup and so on. So I'll turn it over to you. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about your background. Like, how did you get interested in programming and technology? And how did you end up going down like the startup path?
Okay, so I guess there are like two answers to that thing. When I was very young, my dad was like a tinkerer. When he was very young, he liked pulling apart his toys. So when I was young and the internet was this new fad, he worked at a telecom. So my house was one of the first to be connected in my town to the internet.
Oh,
We
cool.
had one of the first personal computers that was always tore apart. So he always had a different Linux installation. So I had to like hack around my way into using it. And we eventually got Windows, probably NT or 98. And my sister could start playing around with Paint and whatnot.
Yep.
Uh, so that's what like initially got me into tech. I became a tinker because my dad like promoted it. But when I actually started my career in tech was in the middle of college. I was having a crisis. I started as a chemical engineer, and the professors really enjoy like making you have all-nighters, right? So after an all-nighter, I had an exam at 7 a.m. and I said, okay, I'm not fit for this. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm quitting. I went over to the library, took the Forbes magazine, and found out that Apple, Google, Microsoft, and Coca Cola were like the most valuable companies in the world. And I said, okay, I'm going into tech. Whatever, I don't care. So I started like moving away. I eventually got my um, college degree in computer science, uh, but it wasn't ever my focus. I hope my mom isn't listening. uh, I really took very long because I was doing other things like getting myself into business, understanding like the world uh, secrets, how it works, how people think about stuff, why they buy certain things. And well, that's how I landed my first job in tech.
Awesome. That's cool. How did you convince that company to hire you to get that job in tech?
Huh. Okay, so I'll use name dropping. So a friend had a delivery company that delivered all over Bogota, which is a big town, and they were being destroyed by Rappi, which is the first Colombian unicorn. They were being destroyed by this company that had just come out of nowhere with a lot of funding and were like delivering everything to your door in minutes. And so I went to the guy and told him, dude, do you want to do this inside the college? And that's how Kiwi Campus started. They do like delivery robots now
Okay.
uh, in the States. And we started delivering, like running around campus, just buying the restaurant and having a small little web app. And by the end of the semester, we had grown a lot, sold a lot of things, and I had learned a lot. And Rappi, the competitor, had a competition that didn't say anything. They literally just published an ad that said, "We want the best." And I told my boss, like, "Hey, I'm going to do this just to get some inside intel." And the task was to get the most users with the first delivery in 2 weeks. So by the end of the first week, we were in third place just by calling all our friends and asking them to register. But it was so cumbersome for the user that nobody was doing it. And so I sat with my co-founder on Watermelon, the other Esteban, and we just sat in my grandma's backyard and started calling all our friends, asking for their email, their address, and sending them free food. Like we registered for them and sent them food. So we won the competition. We got to speak with the CEO, and he immediately liked the team. Like one of my friends went to work with the delivery people because he's a very people-oriented person.
Mhm.
Another friend went to work in the tech side because he's good at management and
Sure.
was studying computer science with me. And when he asked me what I wanted to do, I told him like, "Hey Simon, I have no idea what I want to do, but I'll learn about anything." Right? He liked that so much that he said, "Okay, you impressed me. You're gonna be working with me." Fast forward about a week later, when I had my contract, my first meeting where I had to take note was with Apple's marketing director for Latin America, and it went like up from there. I met everyone in the industry at that company, but they had a terrible, terrible work-life balance. Well, there was like only work. So
Yeah.
we were working 60 hours every week, and I got burnt out, and I quit after a year. That's how I got into this.
Yeah. Interesting. After getting that first job, so I talk a lot on the stream about how hard it is to get the first job in tech. Like getting the first job in tech is the hardest one. After that, usually getting the next job is much easier because you have a little bit of experience already. How did you sort of transition through various jobs to where you are now, to where you're a founder? Coincidentally enough, you're a co-founder where your other founder also has the same first name as you. Which I'm sure could be a lot of fun if people call and say, "Can I talk to the founder named Esteban?" You're like, "Yes,
Yeah. Like,
yes, you are."
we just answered all emails as if
Right.
we were the other one, whatever. Yeah, so it's important to note that none of those two jobs I already mentioned were tech jobs. They
Okay.
were management jobs. Like I was grinding my hours, but I started automating myself, like on Zapier and whatnot, going around helping people. I had a little background, but I was in the middle of college, right? So I
Yeah.
didn't know much about SEO or web, but I started like reading on it and helping people understand the concepts that I found that I understood better. So
Okay.
making yourself helpful for people, it's probably the best way to get into your first job. But about your question, how I jumped around, uh, I've jumped a lot. I've jumped so much in my life.
Same.
At the end of college, in probably my last semester that I went a lot to college, I had a professor that said, "Okay, either you're gonna be having a startup salary by the end of the semester, or you're gonna flunk this class." And he taught us React and Node, and it was
Okay.
super hard. He was brutal. His exams were terrible, but I noticed by the middle of the semester I was very good at it. Like I had worked in Java and it didn't make any sense. Java is so complicated for me.
Okay.
I really think it's a great language and it has survived. But JavaScript is my thing. Like being so ridiculous, making no sense at all, is something that goes a lot with my personality. So I really like JavaScript and React, and I started building things. And somebody posted in a Facebook group like, "Hey, I need help. I have a job that I can make." So I went and helped the girl, and I got hired by the um, director of another college uh, for to work for the government. Somehow that ended up also being my thesis to graduate, and I got like
Cool.
perfect grades. So it's been a lot of luck and being prepared and just jumping into the opportunity. That's probably the most important thing.
So
I cannot overstate just saying yes and then, as they say, building the plane while you're falling.
So taking chances, networking, definitely, and then a healthy dose of luck. So awesome.
Very cliche, but that's
Okay.
what.
I mean, everybody's journey into tech is very different for sure. Cool. Have a handful of folks in chat that are doing exclamation point giveaway or bang giveaway to get in on the daily giveaway, and every entry will get you into the monthly giveaway as well. Squirrelmaster, we actually drew your name the other night, but you weren't in chat to respond. So you got to be in chat. You got to stick around and hang out, because if we draw your name to receive the gift, you need to be here. So,
Oh no.
so congratulations, kinda. So yeah, hopefully you'll have a better chance again. But yeah, it's always fun having folks come by. We got about 15 viewers or so in the channel. Thanks for dropping by, everybody. So do exclamation point giveaway. It's free to enter. There's no cost at all. And basically what you're entering to receive are little 3D printed kit cards like this. And so, I've got some of Millennium Falcon, I've got Land Speeders, I've got, for those that like the other sci-fi, lots of Star Trek related things as well. And then if you don't like either of those, if you're more of a traditional, I've got like holiday-based things. I've got some snowflakes printing on the printer right now. And if none of that is your thing, then we can always go with a toy. For example, a 3D printed catapult. So Esteban, you might be interested in something like this for your dog. They're great for flinging little dog treats across the room. But yeah, so that's the giveaway. So we'll draw for that giveaway in a little while. But tonight we're chatting with Esteban Dalal from Colombia, down in South America, and we're chatting about his experience in tech and working at startups. And as we just talked about, having a healthy dose of luck, but also networking, like just being in the right place at the right time, but talking to the right people and figuring out, how do you impress people? How do you sort of stand out and be memorable to them so that they say, you know what, I'm going to give you a chance. I think that networking is a fantastic way to get a job in tech, and I think that you'll probably get that job in tech faster through networking than just sending resumes and CVs out to every job that you happen to find. So I think networking is fantastic.
That's super important. It's like 10 times easier to get a job with a recommendation than by sending resumes.
Yeah.
So if someone personally likes you, that person is going to recommend you. And when you have hired someone and that person that you like recommends another person, it's probably someone that is going to be good for the spot. And like being memorable is a lot of things. I'm like the quirky guy. I wear pink sweaters. Like I have another one here. I'm tall, so I'm easy to recognize. But you can be memorable by anything. Like be the person that always smiles. Be the person that introduces himself somehow. And you gotta practice it. Like it's very important to be nice to people because a good impression is gonna last forever, but a bad impression will too.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. So you're at this startup now called Watermelon, and I believe the website is watermelon.co. Is that right?
No, watermelontools.com.
Oh, watermelontools.com. Okay. I
we're
tried
trying to buy the watermelon domain.
Oh, okay. I tried Googling watermelon tools, and of course you get all the little like melon ball, like kitchen gadgets. Okay, so watermelontools.com is the startup. So now that you're a CTO, what sorts of things stand out to you, the people that want to apply for a job at your startup? What sorts of things would you look for on a resume to really stand out or to be memorable? Like what kinds of things could people be building that you're like, oh wow, check that out? Is it something that's related to the company? Is it just like fundamentals? Like what sorts of things do you look for on a resume?
Okay, so I'll take a step back because we are not currently hiring. We're open source. We would love for people to contribute code to us, and that would catch my eye so much. Like I literally would ping you back like, hey, would you like to try and build this and we'll pay you? And that's how our relationship starts.
Cool. All right.
I'll go back to my last job where I was like a senior software developer and I interviewed a lot of developers, the first thing that I noticed in people's resumes is that they had links to stuff that I could
Hmm.
actually just pull up, even if it was broken a little, like the logo, the button didn't work properly or took forever. They built it or was hosted in Heroku and it took forever to load. I get it, but you
Yep.
built it and you put it out there, and that's super important. Whatever it was, like if you collect coins and you make an app that I can download and it has like 17 downloads just for like checking in my coins that I have, that'd be very neat to see because you've actually sat down and fixed bugs that you found in the wild, right? If you go beyond tutorials, if you go beyond the average, that's very important. And think about college that way too. When you graduate, everyone's gonna have the same paper that says the same thing except the name.
Hmm.
So what did you do different? Like, were you always with the professors helping them in the investigation? Were you always a person, I don't know, selling stuff around campus? Were you, I don't know, the person in politics for the college? Those are the memorable people, right? So be something that other people aren't. That's what's gonna catch the eye of anyone that's interested.
Okay. So being unique or finding something that's unique. Yeah, we chatted I think on Sunday or last Thursday on the stream about how like a lot of people that come out of schools, they've all done the same projects and so their resumes look identical. Like you need something to stand out. You have to have something different on there that's going to really stand out to a particular company. Like that's the only way that you're going to get noticed. Because if you look the same as everybody else, like why should I hire you over these other 10 resumes that look exactly like yours? They don't want to even have to call all 10 of you to find out what's unique. If you can't show the value that you bring to that company, they would rather just pass on your resume and go find somebody who does kind of exhibit that value add to the company so that they know that they can at least get started on that conversation with you.
Yeah, that's a thing about boot camps contrasted to college. In college, you get to do like a lot of different things. You mix up with a lot of different people, but in a boot camp, you basically go straight through the pipeline. And I'm not bashing boot camps. Like,
Mhm.
I've honestly found very good developers coming out of boot camps, but I would say that around 7 out of 10 just like stay with the guides that were given to them and copy the CSS and paste it into this file. So the resume is exactly the same with a different name, and that's not gonna bring you forward for anything. So
Right.
be that top 30% that did something different. Change the CSS, for instance. Like break stuff. Really.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and the so I mean, just for your own benefit, when I was a software teacher, I actually taught at a coding program here in Colorado, and one of the things that we did on purpose was introduce custom projects where the students got to kind of collaborate on what do we want to build as a team. They would find some sort of novel project idea or like a real world problem that was important to one of them, and the other students would kind of rally around that, going, "Yep, let's go build that." Because it even if those 4 or 5 students all have the same project, they're not all applying to the exact same job. And so as the different students are applying to different jobs, they're like, okay, you're all coming out of this boot camp, but like, or program, but you've all got different projects. At least some of them are going to be the same, but like some of them are going to really stand out around like showing those fundamentals of auth and crud and session management and database and things like that. Like if you have an understanding of those things, companies are going to notice that stuff. But you have to have something different on your resume without looking too quirky. Like you don't want to have too many graphics or anything like that on your resume, but like more so for the projects. And projects are really, would you say projects are necessary for senior level devs or just entry level devs?
That's a hard question. Like if a okay, so on your point, don't worry about copying. Like, hey, I built a clone of I don't know, Facebook.
Mhm.
Amazing. I would love to see that. You built it? Wow. Show me how you built it. That's something that would make you stand out. But projects for senior developers, that is very complicated because when I interview a senior developer, their job isn't going to be necessarily like coding all the time. And a senior developer, as I see it, is someone that has to be 2 or 3 steps ahead of what's being coded today, right? A
Right.
junior developer is someone that hasn't banged their head against their keyboard enough to get to the level of being able to be 2 steps ahead. So yes, projects are important, but they have to be very different. Like I optimized a database that had a 4 minute query and brought it down to 11 seconds. That's a very interesting project for a senior
Mhm.
developer that my guess is a junior developer wouldn't be able to do it, right? You need very deep understanding of stuff that isn't on your level. And that's fine. I mean, you don't expect entry level people to know Node, React, Mongo, SQL, Python. And if they do, don't apply there. Like they're looking for a whole development team and just pay one person. So run.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's important for sure to find companies where you're going to fit in, but like companies that are looking for reasonable amounts. So one of the things that I did on the stream last night, I was doing something a little bit different. Instead of doing interview prep, I was actually building some Lego, and we were talking about 3D printing. And we had a whole bunch of people rate in that are doing the 100 Devs program, and some of them started asking questions, and we were talking a little bit about what kinds of projects they should build, and they brought a lot of really good questions about what should we know and what shouldn't we know. And then somebody redeemed some channel points on Twitch for go roast a job posting. And so they shared a link from Indeed, and I basically broke it down. Like as a hiring manager or as somebody who might apply for a job, here's what I think about all these things that they say. And one of the things that was really interesting on that one was that for an Excel, they were looking for an expert at Excel spreadsheets, specifically with Visual Basic, like the VBA scripting inside of Excel, and required that you had a CS degree.
Why?
Yeah, exactly. That was exactly my thought too. It's like why? Like exactly.
I mean,
For so much of what we do as web developers, like we really don't need a CS degree. Like it's important to know for some kinds of jobs, especially the low level stuff, or where you have to like really highly optimize things. Yes, it will absolutely give you an advantage. But for most of what we do, you really don't need it.
the funny thing is that right person for that is probably an economist. Like they
Right.
spend their lives in Excel and they know a lot about coding and getting into data. I mean, I don't remember the last time I used Excel other than I don't know a 2 column thing for my daily
Right.
budget or something.
Yeah.
It's something not in my field of view in any day.
Right. Right.
So I love that roasting thing.
Yeah. So it's fun. Like it's really fun. Like you just kind of go through and okay, they expect this and they want that and they want all these other things. And one of the things that they said is like we're a small company, and so we want people who are going to exceed kind of expectations. Like you're going to go above and beyond. And I'm like, well, that kind of sets a dangerous sort of precedent because in order to meet their expectations, you have to exceed their expectations, which
Yeah.
means the next time they're going to reset and you have to exceed that, and they're going to reset and you have to exceed that, and it's this never ending growth to where somebody's going to burn out, and it's like that's not sustainable. It's not worth the effort to do something like that. It's a
That's
bad way to work for
something
sure.
that you bring in, and it's very important. I started my career in a mid-sized startup that was growing. I was employee 50-ish, and I stayed for a year, and we were 1,000, which
Okay.
isn't like normal. This is a logistics um, startup, so we had to grow in manpower. But
Right.
thing was, like, if you had been employee number 10 because they sold for 19 billion when they were like under 50 people, you would have gotten all the experience without the burnout. When it's a two-person startup, you're 1/3 of the workforce.
Yep.
So that's a lot of responsibility. And I don't recommend that for anyone in a low level, um, because you're going to be doing two things. You're going to be learning at the same time you're producing, right? A senior developer would probably have a way easier time just like landing with their boots on and start running and building stuff. But a junior developer needs to be coached. And that's the thing in the industry. Most companies interview entry level looking for stuff that is way above entry level. So I find it to be very toxic, and it's making a lot of new graduates from boot camps or college or like self-taught feel useless.
Mm.
And that's the thing that I would like to um make clear. You might have gotten an interviewer that was in a very bad mood. I don't know, I just burned my hand making X, so I was in a very bad mood. I didn't have breakfast, so I like destroyed you on the interview. If I had gotten a
Mm.
normal breakfast, you would have like gotten a perfect score and would be hired. So don't take it personal, because you're gonna get a lot of no's before you get your first yes, and make the best out of your interview. Like ask your interviewer, okay, what's the thing that you would like me to learn uh, before the next time we meet,
Mm.
or why did I bang my interview? So ask.
Some companies here, especially in America, they don't want to give you that feedback. There's kind of this fear that if they give you feedback and you take it the wrong way, that you're going to sue the company, and a lot of companies don't want to open for liability. And so a lot of them just have a policy of like never ever give feedback. But that's actually really disappointing when you're coming in new in the tech industry and you're trying to find that job and you don't do well on an interview and you're like, but what did I do wrong? And they won't tell you what you did wrong. So one secret that I've kind of shared on the stream is like, ask them for what you did well. And as you ask different interviewers, like, hey, like just looking for some feedback, I'm just curious, like, what stood out to you as something that I did really well? They're way more likely to say, oh, you did this part really, really well. Or this thing you did really, really well. We'll start making notes on all that. And then go back and think about what didn't they say I did well? Because you can kind of guess, like if everybody says, oh, you're really good communicator, you're really good at the behavioral things, and you're really good at, sort of talking about your projects. It's like, nobody mentioned how well I did on the technical coding challenge. So maybe that's where you need to practice, right? And so they may not say like, oh yeah, your coding was awful, right? They don't want to tell you that, but they might say, this part was really good. And they might hope, like, I hope that you kind of guess that by not saying you didn't do well in the technical challenge, that you're going to kind of infer from that that's where you could go spend some time in practice. And so that's one little tip, is ask them what you did well, and then try to figure out what they didn't talk about, and then maybe go practice that. Or, you could maybe ping them back and be like, hey, I'm just curious if you could give me any feedback on the technical challenge that I did, like any ways that I could improve so that I can do better in future interviews, or if I come back in 6 months and try to interview again, like how can I improve? How can I be a better candidate? Things like that. Sometimes companies will. Many times, though, they won't. And sometimes they won't even answer those emails because they don't want to get into, any trouble. The funny thing is, almost no companies have ever been sued, but it only takes like one or two companies to get sued, and no other company wants that. And so everyone's like, oh, like one company ever got sued, so like we're just not going to do it because we don't want to run that risk. But it's really disappointing. Like, how am I supposed to get better if you won't tell me how to improve?
Yeah, also take your peers and ask them to interview you. Like record those interviews with your peers, so like, hey, I twitch a lot. Oh my god, I was touching my face all the time, and that made me anxious seeing it.
Mhm.
Probably would make any other interviewer anxious.
Mm.
And again, try and try again. You're gonna get better.
Yeah.
This is a practice thing. Coding, I mean, coding is a thing that you learn by doing, just like any sport or actually any activity. Because once you see a bug, you kind of know the answer for the next time. and that's what makes you a senior. You've seen so many bugs that you see them miles away. There's gonna be a bug over there,
Right.
200 lines down the road. You still remember it because, oh my god, that destroyed a weekend one day few years back. So that's what makes you grow.
Yeah, for sure. Tech Dinosaur actually just left a message in chat, said, or do mock interviews with people who can give you good feedback. Sometimes as peers, like if you just graduated or you just finished a boot camp and you do a mock interview with someone else in your boot camp, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, you did a great job. But try to find a mentor, try to find somebody who's been in the industry for a while and say, can I do a mock interview with you? Or can you ask me a couple of questions and tell me how I do? That's how you're gonna get better, is find somebody with a little bit more experience than you and ask them to do a mock interview with you. I think that's a great point.
A funny thing is we live in the Calendly era. Like you can just drop a message on LinkedIn to anyone that says developer, and they'll probably respond to you because we developers get a lot of LinkedIn messages offering new jobs and stuff. But when someone asks like, "Hey, could I be interviewed by you for practice?" That would catch our eye. That's something different from the usual, and at least me and my friends would respond and be happy to help.
Well, there you go, everybody. If you want a mock interview, go hit up Esteban.
Yeah, go hit me. Yeah, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever.
Yeah. So a user in chat, Drunk Uncle Grandma, which is a great username. I've heard people say during an interview to just ask, what prevents you from hiring me right now? What am I missing that makes me the perfect candidate? Again, some companies are going to have a policy of like, don't give feedback. And so some of them won't answer that. Myself as a hiring manager, if I were asked that question, I would feel a little bit cornered. It might make the interviewer a little bit defensive, and I think you need to be careful that you're not coming across too aggressive. It's one thing to say you really want the job, but it's another thing to come across aggressive with something like that. I think again, some companies aren't going to want to give feedback, but some companies may not be prepared yet to give you feedback. Like the interview process is multiple steps for a reason. There are lots of things that we want to learn about you. There are lots of things that we want to find out about you, and we may not have enough information yet to figure out whether you're a perfect candidate or not. And so oftentimes as a hiring manager, if I had to answer something like that, I would say, I don't have enough information about you yet to make a decision one way or the other. That's why we have multi-process, interviews where we get on a conversation and, like if I'm asking you behavioral questions and you do okay on that, and I say, okay, cool, we're going to contact you, for next steps. And you're like, well, why don't you just hire me right now? It's like, because we have next steps. Like, I think you have to be careful not to come across too aggressive. I mean, you can try asking, but I think asking in a slightly different way of, like how I might pose that is like, what would stand out to you as a perfect candidate? So that's not saying like, why am I not the perfect candidate? Because that starts to sound a little bit needy. I think saying in your mind, like Esteban, you're a CTO, in your mind, what would make the perfect ideal candidate for somebody applying for this role at your company? And now you're going to probably share, I'm really looking for somebody with this and this and this and this. At which point then you can respond with, I have some of that. Maybe not all of it, but I can go learn some of those other things. But I've actually got these skills. And now it's more conversational. So I think you can ask a similar question and still get the information that you're looking for without being very confrontational in how you ask that question. What are your thoughts, Esteban? If someone were to ask you that question, like what's kind of your initial feeling there?
That question? Whoa, dude. Chill, man. Yeah, you're a good coder, but no can do. My personal opinion is that most companies would prefer a better cultural fit than a great coder. And the paradox of that is that they all look for the best coders, but they want people that work in teams, and they're usually not the same person, right? So there are these geniuses that just put on their headphones and code straight up. They don't blink. They just drink chalk, coffee, and out comes a product, a perfect product, no bugs, but they're
Right.
never in the meetings. They don't respond to emails. They don't mentor people.
Hmm.
And depending on the culture of the company, I would be careful to ask that. Uh, but as a CTO, yes, it would make me very uncomfortable, that precise question, because it's in a negative basis. Like,
Hmm.
what would be the best candidate for this role is a positive question. Why am I not the best candidate for this role is a negative question.
Oh, that's a good point. You're making me focus on why you're not somebody I want to hire. And now that could subconsciously make me think, yeah, I don't want to hire this person. Yeah. So again, you have to be really careful how you actually phrase things because you might get them sort of subconsciously thinking, yeah, I don't want to hire this person. Or you're asking them to look for reasons why they don't want to hire you. Yeah. Very, very interesting. Hey, Whiskey, good to see you in chat as well. And good to see Blacksmith Pop back and Icy Black Deep. Everyone's getting in that giveaway. So do exclamation point giveaway and we'll get in, we'll do that drawing here in a little bit, probably 15, 20 minutes or so. You will need to be present in chat, so you will need to make sure that you're here for the giveaway.
I'm probably going to be present in chat, so I'm going to register.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just drop in chat and just do bang giveaway.
Exclamation
Awesome,
point.
good deal. And while Esteban's doing that, if anybody's got questions that you want to ask us specifically, please drop those in chat. And if you want to ask something anonymously, you can send a whisper over to the chat bot, and it'll pop up as an anonymous question. If you're more comfortable doing that. I don't always pay attention to my whispers and stuff while I'm streaming, but if you send it over to the bot, then it'll show up as an anonymous question in chat, and then we can certainly address that if you got something that you'd like to ask us. So awesome. So now we got a giveaway there. So go give Esteban a follow. Let me get you his LinkedIn and his Twitter here as well. Bang guest. So yeah, go give Esteban a follow on
yeah, I would love to
Twitter
interview
and Twitch and
if
LinkedIn.
if you need some
There you go.
practice. It would be great for you to interview with me by doing a fix on the watermelon open source repo. But one underrated thing about interviews is being human. Like right now, I'm sick. If this were a job interview, I would have told Ian, like, Ian, I'm sorry, I'm really sick. Can we reschedule a couple days from now? I mean, that's something you don't control.
Right.
And they know you're not going to be on the top of your game. And companies like want to test the best because you're going to be sick like 5 days a year.
Yeah.
The rest of the year, you're going to be okay. So they want to test the normal person. And be thankful, be honest. Don't lie in your resume. That's one thing that I think that I don't know how it crosses people's mind. And I recently read about deep fakes interviews. Like I take you for you, and then you come in and work, and they are like, dude, you responded your React questions in a breeze, and now you don't know React. Why?
Yeah.
And that is something that is happening, and it's mind blowing. Why would someone not take?
Why would you do that? Yeah. So I've seen two different things about like the fake interviews. One is they get like somebody, you know, like me to go do the interview for you and get the job offer, and then you show up for the job and you're like, you're not the person we interviewed. But the other one is actually people doing deep fake videos and making fake job posts to try to get like your personal information. And so it can be fake on the other direction too, like, you know, fake companies posting jobs to try to get resumes so they can, you know, scrape a little bit more of your private data and maybe get like your phone numbers and your email addresses and stuff like that. That's not to say you shouldn't go apply for jobs, but I've also heard of people doing like deepfake videos to even like alter their appearance to get around things like bias. You know, if they're worried about, you know, cultural bias or racial bias or whatever, like I'm going to go look like a white male in tech and I'm going to use voice altering technology so I sound male presenting on the call so that I'm more likely to get through the interview. And then, surprise, I'm not a white male because, you know, they're worried about getting around bias and things like that. But again, like to some degree, that's kind of misrepresenting yourself. But I mean, bias is a thing. we all have unconscious bias, and some of us are aware of the bias. And I think a lot of companies at heart, I think, want to do a good job with bias and being careful that they're not doing, something shady in their interviewing. But like you said, at the end of the day, you're being interviewed by a human being, and they could stub their toe on the way to work, and now they're in a bad mood. And it's not necessarily you; it was just them as an interviewer. I think sometimes giving feedback to the company would be okay to say, "Hey, you know what? I didn't enjoy that interview experience. I didn't get along with that particular interviewer. Is there somebody else that I could interview with?" Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. Like they could go back and chat with that person and be like, "Hey, you having an okay day today? Like we heard from the candidate that something was a little off," and they'd be like, "Yeah, I stubbed my toe really bad. I think I broke my toe." It's like, okay, well, let's give them another interview another time with someone else then or something. But there's so many interesting things about interviewing these days. Let's see, are we having some connection issues here? Is it my connection or his? That's the question. I think I'm still streaming okay. I'm not dropping any packets, so we'll give Esteban a minute to reconnect maybe and see if we can get that going. Let's try reloading here. We give Esteban a minute to reconnect, and then see if we can get him back. Let me go back through chat here and see some other stuff coming in. So yeah, definitely get in on the giveaway. My middle name is Danger. Good to see you in chat. Thanks for dropping by. I just heard about that for the first time, the deepfake interviewing thing. Yeah, it's pretty strange for sure. Drunk Uncle Grandma says my portfolio page. Oh hey, welcome back. You made it. My portfolio page has my skills as percentages based on what I'm comfortable. An entry-level developer should know. For example, if I'm learning something, I have it as 5 or 10%. I would not put percentages on your resume. They're very subjective, because especially when you're new at something, how do you know that that's 5% and it's not like 1%? Or maybe it's actually 20%, and now you look like you don't know it as much as you think you do. So I wouldn't put any sort of progress bar or like infographic thing, anything on that. Just say you understand JavaScript, and let them figure out how much JavaScript you know. Like, do you know the kind of JavaScript that they need you to know to do the job? And let them figure that out. Don't try to figure that out and put that on your resume. I would recommend take that stuff off.
That's a funny thing.
Oh, I can't hear you. One second.
Where the interview is usually harder than the job itself. Did I fall off again? Oh my gosh.
There we go. Sorry, I couldn't hear your answer. I had an audio problem, but I saw that you were talking. I think everybody else was able to hear you, but I wasn't able to hear your answer. But hopefully he dropped some good wisdom on everybody.
Why? Watermelon.
Oh, we lose him again. I think we lost him again. All right, we'll give him a minute to reconnect. Esteban's got some good knowledge to share with us, so we'll give him some time for sure to come back. But yeah, I would take those percentages off. I don't think that they're going to be helpful. Have that during a tech interview. Yeah, tech interviews are no joke. They're way harder than they need to be. I think there's a lot of very negative things that happen around like asking the wrong kinds of questions. Like people don't ask the kinds of questions that are really indicative of what you do on a day-to-day basis. Hey Esteban, sounds like you're back. That are really indicative of what you do on a day-to-day basis. So I can hear myself echoing through your input, but yeah, we're hearing you now. I can hear myself echoing through your input.
Yeah.
Make sure you mute the tab with Twitch or headphones. There we go. We'll give him a minute. Glad you were able to reconnect. Yeah, get in on that giveaway. We'll do the drawing for the giveaway here in a few moments, and we'll get Esteban back on here. Here we go.
That's a very underrated recommendation. Like, have a backup microphone.
For sure, absolutely.
Oh, now I have return. But do you have return?
Yes. I can hear you. I think everybody else can hear you. I see your audio signal coming through. So if you're in chat and you can hear Esteban now, like throw some emotes or something in chat. Let us know that you can hear him okay. I'm pretty sure it's coming through fine. Yep, Drunk Uncle Grandma can hear us both. Blacksmith Pop hears everybody. All right, cool. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate that. But yeah, we were just chatting a little bit about how in tech interviews they tend to interview for the wrong kinds of things. Like a lot of companies are really hung up on, you know, the leak code style tech challenge that isn't indicative of what you're going to do on a day-to-day basis. Like, you know, show me that you can actually go hit an API and fetch some data and like manipulate that data. It's a story that I like telling about a job interview I did back in January. It's like, that's exactly what my day job's going to be here. That's awesome. And then at another company, it's like, go find like the closest latitude and longitude point to this list of latitude and longitude points. It's like, your company doesn't even do anything with geolocation. Why are you asking me this problem? And it's like, oh, you just, you know, it's no big deal. You just have to have memorized this math formula from 1814 or something. It's like, what? And like, they knew it by name and like the exact formula. I'm like, why are you giving me this as an interview question? Like, this is absolutely absurd.
One of my favorite interviews was a two-part one. The first part was like build a Trello version in React.
Okay.
You only need the title and you need to move the cards from one column to the other. So it was like an array thingy, no B trees, no inversion of ON speed. Just like check that when you're in the last column, you kind of push it forward, and when you're in the first, you kind of push it backwards.
Yeah.
So it was pretty straightforward, and they knew I knew React. Like I wasn't lying about it.
Right.
And then the question that got my attention in that interview was, hey, I have a slow server. Why?
That's a great one to debug.
Yeah, so he wanted me to start asking questions like, you only have one server or you have several servers, and this one is specifically, have you checked the disk? Is this in AWS or is it local? Like, he wanted to know my thought process about how it went around problems. And that, in my opinion, is way more important than actual technical chops.
Right.
If you're curious enough and you think stuff through and you ask questions and you know how to search for stuff, you're probably on the road to be a great developer. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I do front end a lot, and centering diffs is still like something I Google and I have somewhere saved.
It's all about the auto margins for sure. Recursion Tree as a username. Appreciate the follow. I chuckle a little bit at your username because that tends to be the exact type of technical challenge that you get asked. It's like, go do this, you know, tree traversal thing in a recursive fashion. And it's like, I've done recursion twice my entire career in a production system. It's like, it's almost never used, but it's going to come up in tech interviews all the time. And you know how ridiculous it is that that happens, because it really doesn't need to.
Also, and this is a personal opinion, don't learn like esoteric languages. Like, I know Haskell is probably very interesting, but Python is gonna get you the job.
I mean, unless the company does Haskell, then by all means, like, go learn Haskell. Like, if you really want to stand out and say, like, I've learned enough about the language, maybe not to interview in it, but enough to figure out, like, I'm gonna transfer my knowledge from this to this by, you know, this method or something like that. Like, that's gonna win points, as opposed to, yeah, I've spent my entire life learning Haskell. It's like, okay, well, you're gonna get, like, you know, 0.5% of the jobs that are out on the market that you know, that aren't asking for Haskell. So
yeah, like, I'm a React guy, and you get React job listings every single day, right?
Yeah.
So it's way easier to get a job and then when you reach a certain point in your career, when you have like perfect job safety, you can go ahead and try the things that you really, really like.
Yeah.
Because once you got your mailbox money and you know that you paid rent for the next 3 months, you can start like interviewing for the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Because this is gonna take time. This takes time.
Yeah, for sure. I had to chuckle there. Return to Dust as a user said, COBOL is much cooler though. You know,
very well.
you know what's
very well paid.
You know what's really, yeah, like back, if you're old enough to remember Y2K, like go like learning COBOL like leading up to Y2K, you made a ton of money. But the other interesting thing about that is it was a Y2K problem back then. But if you think about it now, all of the people that wrote COBOL back then are trying to retire. And a lot of these companies that wrote all that code on COBOL, they don't have anybody to step into those jobs. So those old technologies, I think those companies are trying to figure out how do we transfer that to some other technology stack, but they still need people that can go read the old code. So they're not trying to reinvent and like reimagine what that product's going to be. It's like, how do we port that code from COBOL to Python or whatever? They need people that can still read COBOL to help understand, okay, well, this is what the algorithm's doing. Let me go figure out how to write that same thing in Python. Sometimes it could be worth like, the money and the time and the effort or whatever to like go study some of those weird languages just to go get those jobs where all the old baby boomers and whatever, they're starting to retire, and even some old Gen X people are starting to retire. Go figure out what technologies do they know. Are those companies starting to transfer to other technology stacks? Can I go learn both of those things and step into those jobs? You'll probably make some pretty good money.
Heads up, it's usually banks, so it's gonna be a very boring job.
Very bureaucratic, yeah. And I promised myself coming out of college, I'm never gonna work for a company where I have to wear like a tie every day. That's just not my thing. So, but yeah, every company's a little bit different, and I think that I think it's interesting to think about, how you can kind of progress your career by learning those different kinds of technologies and so on. Let's head over to chat. We've had a couple of questions drop in there. So Lego Logic 16 just asked, what do you think about big companies starting to lay off employees? Amazon just announced today that they're putting a freeze on hiring in their retail division. So their real brick and mortar stores, their online store, and some of those things, they've frozen hiring. Other other divisions like AWS and their warehouse workers and stuff like that, they're still hiring there. But they put a freeze on the actual Amazon.com retail e-commerce side of things. It's interesting. I think companies are being a little too aggressive with what they think the economy is going to be as far as trying to halt on hiring and so on. I don't think it's going to be as bad as they think. I think the economy is going to get bad, but I don't think that the big tech companies really have very much to worry about. And I've said this on the stream too. It's not like people are going to say, oh, you know what? We pay too much for Gusto. Let's just do it ourselves. Let's do our own payroll instead of using Gusto. Or you know what? We pay too much for SendGrid at Twilio. Let's just go write our own email server and we'll just do it in-house instead. Nobody goes backwards. It's always like, hey, we built our own email thing. It's getting kind of cumbersome. Let's go integrate that other service instead. We'll pay some money for it, but it's way better than building and maintaining our own. And so if you can go find those companies that other companies tend to plug into, your job's going to be pretty secure. So go get a job with a Salesforce type of role. There's so many people using Salesforce right now. It's not going to guarantee you a job, but if you can go learn some Salesforce stuff, you're definitely going to stand out over other new grads and so on.
It pays well.
And it pays very well, yeah, for sure. Salesforce especially pays really well.
I think that if you work in tech, you're gonna fall standing, right? You're not gonna be out of a job forever. Yes, you're not gonna have your $200,000 Google salary. That's probably not in the job market anymore. But if you go to a small startup and you get your stock options and the startup actually grows, well, you're gonna be able to pay for rent and get some stock that's worth something. But on the flip side, all this talent that is very well trained in big companies is going to go out and start new stuff. In the crisis of 2008, that's when the current big companies got started. Airbnb and all these internet giants of the day got started during crisis.
Yep, that's great. Good point. We got some really good questions here in chat. Want to make sure that we get to all these. Drunk Uncle Grandma asked another one. How do I get a successful cold call, email, coffee chat with a developer from a company that I want to apply to? I would try to get an introduction from somebody else who knows somebody at that company. And so if you do !intros, oops, caps lock, and try that again. So if you go check out this link that just dropped in chat, here's some instructions on how you can utilize your LinkedIn profile to go through somebody else's LinkedIn to see who they know. And then, so like, for example, you can click on my LinkedIn profile, and then you click where it says 500 plus connections. And then you can do a search from there for a company and say, okay, does Ian know anybody at Coca-Cola? And it'll tell you. And if you see any first degree connections, that means you know them. If you see a second degree connection, that means that I know somebody there. And so then you can reach out to me and say, hey, Ian, can you introduce me to Esteban at Coca-Cola? Here's the link to the profile. And I will happily make those introductions and say, hey, somebody in my network wants an introduction. And now it's not a cold email or a cold outreach. It's more of a warm outreach at that point because you're being introduced. So I would start out by trying to find somebody who knows someone at that company. And if you really can't find anybody, then what I would probably do is I would reach out and say, hey, I'm trying to build my network. I'm interested in your company, and I've got 2 specific questions I'd like to ask you. And then figure out what those questions are going to be. And if they connect with you, send them those 2 questions and say, you're welcome to answer this offline, but if you've got time for a Zoom call or something, I'd love to like actually meet you and chat with you for like 10 minutes and answer those 2 questions for me. I would really appreciate your time. Most people, if they see the questions ahead of time, they can kind of think about their answers. That way you're not putting them on the spot. But you can also, give them the opportunity of saying, you know what, I haven't got time for a Zoom call, but I've got like 2 minutes right now. I can just type out a quick answer for you. Either way, you're going to get your answer. And you've also made another connection. And then you can follow up with them later on. Hey, appreciate that. By the way, I got one more question for you. Drop that in chat. Say, if you want to do that offline again, cool. If you ever want to hop on a Zoom call, I'm open to doing a Zoom call or Google Meet or whatever. That's probably the best way that you're going to get a reaction from somebody and get them to connect. Send them the question ahead of time. Don't just make a connection and say, hey, I'd like to ask about getting a job at your company. Just say, I've got 2 questions about working at your company. If you get time, just to connect. Wait for them to connect and go from there.
That's a great advice. I had never thought about that.
Return to Dust says mentorships within corporate companies to keep that going is a real thing. Yeah, for sure. My middle name is Danger and Government. Most state agencies have COBOL. Yep. A lot of those kinds of companies are going to have a lot of older tech for sure. Drunk Uncle Grandma asks another good one. What questions should I ask to sound passionate about the role but not desperate? What kinds of questions, Esteban, do you like to be asked at an interview that would really stand out in your mind? Or what, like if I said, what's the number 1 most interesting question that you've been asked by a candidate during an interview? What comes to mind?
There was this guy that was actually very good, and he did almost a perfect interview, and he said, hey, I think I bombed this interview, but I'll apply again in 6 months. What should I learn in this 6 months? So I knew he had this grit for it. He probably had applied already, and this was the second time he did that.
Okay.
But it got my attention. Like, he actually wants to grow into the job that he's looking for.
Interesting.
So that's one of the most important ones. And when they open themselves a little more, like, would you like to know anything else about me that I haven't shown you? I usually just like go a little personal, like, do you have pets?
Yeah.
I have a dog, and I'll introduce her. So it makes it a little more warm for the other side of the call. I think those 2 are decent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of my favorites was somebody who did, so our company at the time, they would tell you ahead of time who you're going to be interviewing with. And this person went and did research on me personally and showed up at the interview and said, hey, I noticed, you've worked at a lot of startups and you tend to only stay at those startups for about 1.5 years, but you've been at this company for like 3 years. What keeps you here? And I'm like, that's a really, really thoughtful question. Like, I've noticed this pattern about your own career, and you've broken that pattern by being at this company. Like, what is it about this company that keeps you here? And I'm like, it's the people. Like, it's working in email. I was working at SendGrid at the time. I'm like, it's a job where we're like helping businesses send email. It's not super glamorous, but it's really interesting technology. It's really interesting work. We're doing things at scale. But ultimately, I love the people that I work with. Like, they're fantastic people. That's what keeps me here. Like, on the days where it's like, oh, I'm working on email. It's like, but I get to work with Jose. I get to work with Tim. I get to work with Isaac. I get to work, directly with these founders and so on. Like, that's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me fired up.
Yeah.
Ethan's dad 3D, appreciate the resub for 6 months. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Appreciate the support. All that money is going into the diversity and tech fundraiser. Appreciate that, and I match all that money as well. So I want to figure out a way to make that a little more dynamic when people sub and gift and things like that. But I appreciate the support. Thank you so much. Sorry, I interrupted Esteban. You were starting to say something.
Yeah, I was thinking like working in sexy companies like Tesla or SpaceX sounds great, but this kind of company attracts a certain kind of person that is chasing a high, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned that you worked in email, which sounds like the most boring job in the world. But when you're coding, like you're gonna be making arrays, maps, filters. Even if you're working to get to space, right? It's gonna be the same filter.
Yeah.
You're gonna be needing the same ideas in programming. You're probably be needing special concepts that email doesn't have, but each industry has their own challenges that are gonna make it fun. But the people are the most important thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And you have to be pushed to grow, nurtured, and don't let the shiny things get you. Like, hey, we have pizza parties every Friday. What does it mean? They want to keep you on a Friday in the office instead of with your friends. Yeah, that kind of thing. Sometimes, like if they call themselves a family, I'm running. That I've seen so many dysfunctional families. Companies are companies because you're with a lot of people accompanied, and they have to be nice people. But remember that they are coworkers. They might turn into friends later down the road, but they have to be good coworkers first. You have to be able to trust them to do what they said they did. Um, I mean, they gotta take blame and help you carry the weight. That's what makes a good team.
For sure. Build Great, thanks for the first time chat. They said, so I'm awful at live coding algorithm type questions, but I have a wealth of experience with outdated tool sets, networking knowledge, DB administration, DevOps. How important is algorithmic familiarity versus looking it up when I need it? Depends what kind of company that you're going to go apply at, because there are still a lot of companies that want to do these leak code algorithmic types of problems as their technical challenge. I would try to ask the recruiter ahead of time and just say like, hey, you know what? I've got all this other experience, but I'm not fantastic at like these leak code puzzle type interviews. Is that the kind of interview that you do? Because if so, I'm not going to bother applying for the job. And just straight up let them know that, because that's going to help them change their outlook of like, look at this person with all this experience, and we're going to lose out on them because we ask leak code problems. I think that that's one of the only ways that we're going to start to shift that a little bit in the industry, is by having people like specifically call out companies and say, I'm not going to interview there because you're doing leak code. It's unrealistic. It's not indicative of what you're going to be doing, especially, like Bill's background, networking and DevOps. Like, it sounds like a great sort of DevOps type of role. Like, why ask that person to do leak code challenges? I was reached out to by a Google recruiter about doing developer relations work and developer advocacy, and they're like, as part of the interview process, you got to do these technical challenges. I'm like, cool, tell me about it. And she's like, well, we recommend you practice on leak code. I'm like, why do I have to do a leak code challenge to do developer relations where I'm doing public speaking? And I'm writing blog content and I'm writing technical documentation. Like, why do I have to jump through that hoop? And so I gave him that feedback. I'm like, no, I'm not going to apply. You know,
Yeah.
and I think if more candidates start doing that, I think companies are going to start to take notice, and some of them will be like, all right, you don't want to apply, that's fine. But after a while, they're going to be like, dang, we can't find anybody that wants to apply for these jobs. Well, maybe you need to change your interview process because nobody likes your interview process.
Yeah, you can. You sound like a very experienced person. Congrats. You can have a very successful career. I did. And I have bumped a lot of interviews. Like they asked me if you have islands that contains ones and zeros, and you want to navigate all the way to the end of the maze. And I'm like, bro, I have no idea how to solve this.
Right.
And the interview lasts 5 minutes. Like they read the problem, and I'm like, I'm never gonna be able to solve this.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not your candidate, and you're not my company. And that's very honest. That's very human. They're
Mhm.
gonna be happy because they can jump back to whatever they were doing,
Right.
and it doesn't cost them anything.
Right.
To be honest.
At the same time, a lot of the idea behind a technical challenge is they want to give you something novel that you haven't seen before, that you can basically break that problem into steps and solve each of those steps and come up with a whole working solution. You know, hopefully it's around the theme of what the company does, and it's not like that geolocation thing that I was just talking about a minute ago. Like, hopefully it's something a little more practical. But you know, some companies are really stuck on this whole leak code thing of like, oh, all the FANG companies do it, so we're going to do it too. And again, I think that's where, you know, we as candidates, I think we need to start pushing back and start saying like, no, that's not a good interview experience for anybody. Like even the interviewers, like I guarantee they don't like doing those either. It's like, you know, they go in asking a question that they know the answer to, but like, you know, do you have to memorize depth first search? Do you have to memorize like heap problems and stuff? I think understanding how to solve a type of problem like at a really high level is good knowledge to know. But do I have to memorize like search algorithms and sorting algorithms? It's like no, like you really like you don't. You can go look those up on the job. All of us do. I promise. All of us go look that stuff up. Maybe somebody who just got a job at Google, like that's still going to be fresh in their brain for like the first month. But once they get on the job and they've got all this other stuff to learn, they forget all that stuff too. I know this because I do mock interviews on interviewing.io, and I interview people all the time who currently work at one FANG company. They're trying to get a job at another FANG company, and they're still out of practice. And they're like, yeah, I got to go back and like do leak code all over again. It's like, yeah, it's because it's not something that sticks around in your brain when you don't use it all the time. And that's the problem with tech interviews is these are not skills that people use all the time. So why is that part of the interview process?
Also, super important, be nice to your interviewers
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
your recruiters,
And
especially
recruiters.
the
Yep.
recruiters when they send you a LinkedIn message. Be nice to them. Like, thank you. I'm not looking right now. I can hear your offer, but it's very hard to compete with the current salary. Uh, because as you are going to be jumping around as a developer or a DevOps or something, they're going to be jumping around as a recruiter.
Yeah.
So they might remember you as a nice candidate and ping you again.
Right. Yeah. So thank you, Laura, in chat for saying that too. Be nice to recruiters. It says a lot about the candidate. Absolutely. I agree. I mean, no matter who you're talking to, like always be polite, always be professional. Like you're not going to win anything by being a jerk. But at the same time, I think that you can be firm about like, no, I'm not interested in that interview process. One of the companies that I was interviewing with back in January was a FANG company. They were in the e-commerce space, and they're like, we want you to do this like 8-hour interview process, and it's going to be like hour after hour after hour of all these like technical challenges and presentations. And I'm like, no, thank you. It's like I've already got a couple of offers. That's a lot of effort to put in. Like, yes, you're one of the top companies, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate that you're looking for people that really want to go the extra mile. But I've already got job offers, so I'm not going to bother. And they're like, okay, like it's no big deal to them. It really isn't. Drunk Uncle Grandma says, what would be your perfect response to be to the question, why should we hire you? I've never asked that question as an interviewer because it's not a good question to ask. If I'm honest, I think it's a little bit loaded on bias, but I don't think it gives me good indications of you and your skill. But Esteban, what do you think?
I don't think I would like to be asked that one. if they ask you, um, I'm cold. It's very complicated. It's well, I know React, and you're looking for a React developer. Um, I'm open to working in the salary range you have. Uh, I have a very nice dog. I can show you pictures.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It's honestly a very bad question. But if they ask you, like, skirt around with the what you've been told during the process, we're looking for someone that will go the extra mile. Hey, I can go the extra mile. That's something that might help you a bit with that one.
Yeah, for sure. Ethan's dad 3D was saying in chat, I like bosses in companies who expect the job to work around your life and not vice versa, like literally chewing you out for missing a kid's school event. I actually had a boss that threatened disciplinary action if he found out we did not go to a school event. It's like, what are you doing at work if your kid's, doing a recital, or your kid's got, like a band thing at school? Like, why aren't you there? Like he threatened that he would give us disciplinary action if he found out that we were missing life to be at work. And I'm like, that's the kind of boss you want to have. Absolutely. I would say, and I'm going to plug my email newsletter series here. Answering the question, like, why should we hire you? I mean, at the end of the day, it's the same kind of question of, tell me about yourself. You need to provide the value that you bring to the company. You need to speak very eloquently and concisely about, this is the value that I bring to the company. This is the background that I have. These are the skills that I have for the role to which I'm applying. Like, this is, and you need to frame the answer as to the value that you bring. That's the best way to answer it, if you have to answer that question, is you really want to talk about the value. The reason that I bring up the email newsletter is because I've got 3 newsletters in there. One of them is technical questions, one is behavioral questions, and one's just general tips. The behavioral question one, the very first email that I send is, tell me about yourself. Like, how do you answer that question? It's a pupper. And those emails are not written in a way of like, here's how to craft the perfect answer. I tell you about, like, this is why we ask you these questions. But yeah, let's meet Esteban's puppy. So yeah, go subscribe to the email series. There are 3 newsletters that you can subscribe to, and we're gonna meet a puppy. So tell us about your doggo, and then I think we're gonna draw for the giveaway right after that. So if you haven't already done ! Giveaway, do that in chat, and tell us about your pup.
Yeah, I adopted her after New Year's. Like, of course, I drank a lot, and I woke up on top of her. We were in a farm somewhere, and the prior owners had gone to Panama, and they couldn't take her. And she's a very nice dog. She's a lap dog, even if her weight is the same as mine. She loves being around me. She's so nice. She's about 8 years old, so she
Awesome.
walks slow now. I've heard her bark 3 times in my life, but she snores like a truck.
That's great. Too funny. If you do bang giveaway, it's all lowercase letters, by the way. So Commander Cool, you'll need to do lowercase g, and then you'll be entered. Is Riker over there? Yeah, is he over there? Riker, come. Here, come see me. Here he comes. I'll introduce everybody to Riker. This is my British lab. Come here. Get up here. Here. No, come here. He thinks he's getting a cookie. I will bribe him with it.
He should be.
Come here.
He should be. Oh, hi.
He's like, oh, I got my cookie. I'm done. He's just here for the goodies. Cool. Restart it. Thanks for the first time chat. Good luck on the giveaway. So yeah, we're gonna draw on the giveaway here. We'll give everybody like 2 more minutes. Yeah, phone autocorrect. Yeah, I gotta love how it starts every sentence with capital letters. Are you ready to come say hi and be social now? Hmm? Come here. Hey. Get up here. There we go.
She's awake past her bedtime.
Oh, okay.
So
It's okay. I'm done. That dog wasn't little. Yeah, yeah. He's close to 100 pounds. So he's a big beefy boy for sure. Yeah, good times. Yeah. So
This
last chance,
girl's like
get in on that giveaway.
130 pounds,
Okay.
something like that.
Is
And
she
she's supposed to be like a midget for her breed.
okay?
She's a Newfie.
Oh,
They're
Newfoundland.
huge.
Yeah, they
Absolutely
are
huge
massive.
dogs.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's very cool.
But they're
very
so
cool.
nice. They're always super nice.
Good deal. All right. Well, we're gonna do the giveaway draw here. And so a couple things to keep in mind. You will need to be present in chat if I draw your name, and you're gonna have 4 different things that you can receive as a gift. So if I draw your name, you have 4 choices. You have Star Wars, and if you choose Star Wars, I'm gonna send you something like a Millennium Falcon, or I will send you something like a land speeder, or something like an Imperial shuttle, something along those lines, and you just break the parts off and you assemble the thing. If you are the other type of sci-fi nerd, I will send you appropriate like Deep Space Nine or Enterprise type models, and I will be printing them larger than this, by the way, or I will send like a number of them together. If you are not into sci-fi and you want something more like, you know, holiday themed, I've got like holiday tree ornament things that you can put together. And I'm 3D printing some snowflakes right now. They're not quite ready. They'll be ready in a little bit. And if that's not your thing, then I've also got like some 3D printed toys that you can assemble, like a little catapult. And it's just a little kit. It looks like this. And so it's again, you just break off all the parts and you assemble it, and it makes a little catapult that looks like that. So all the springs are all 3D printed. And so the plastic just winds up and away it goes. Great for flinging
Wow.
dog treats across the room. This thing will fling a dog treat probably a good 12 to 20 feet.
Wow. I hadn't seen that 3D tech doing that.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. You know, just prints all the little springs, and you know, I'll be sure to send instructions and all that. Ethan's dad says, my yellow lab is only 60 pounds, but when she steps on your toe or lays her elbow on you, you appreciate it's only 60 pounds. Yeah, Wrecker likes to wrap himself around my feet. So when I'm sitting here at the desk, he'll lie down right on my feet. If I go away on a trip, he'll like go bug my wife or my kids, and he'll like sleep on their feet. It's great for keeping your toes warm, but having a 100-pound anchor wrapped around your foot is not always ideal. But yeah, he's my little buddy. Well, not so little, but he's my buddy. Good boy.
She likes sitting on feet. When we're walking in the park, she doesn't go hang out with dogs, but rather just stares at them.
Oh, really?
So I go sit in a bench, and she will sit on my feet and
funny.
watch the other dogs.
This guy,
that's her walk.
Yeah, this guy loves just getting out and playing with other dogs. That's his favorite thing, for sure. Good deal. All right, well, I think it's about time for a giveaway. What do you think? Let's do it.
Go.
All right, so here we go. We're gonna do a giveaway for our daily gift. So we will do a little drum roll here, and this is randomly gonna pick. And Restarted had a first time chat here just a minute ago. So pretty sure that Restarted is going to be hanging out. So Restarted, you have been chosen. You had a 1 in 12 chance for today's giveaway. So congrats.
Wow. Congrats.
So let me know in chat. Let me know that you're still there, first of all. And if you're there, then we'll get you to choose one of those 4 things. So Star Wars, Star Trek, holiday, or toy. And then I'll give you some information that you need to DM me that you can just send me on Twitch. And then we'll get you in the giveaway. You're still here? Awesome. So which of those 4 things would you like? We got Star Wars, Star Trek, holiday, or toy. The other thing that I've got for 3D printed toys, I disassembled it. But if you're into those like little puzzle things where you get like the different shaped pieces that you fit together, and it like makes the little cubes and things like that, I've got like those kinds of things I can 3D print. Or I've got the catapult. I've got let's see, what else do I have toy wise. I've got a handful of things, so let me know. Holiday's fine. Okay, so I've got like Christmas trees, I've got snowflake ornaments and stuff like that, so I'll just randomly go pick one of those. So what I need you to do, I need you to DM me your name, your mailing address, and your email address, And so when I ship the thing out, I can send you some tracking information. So yeah, that's that. And then yeah, appreciate the new follows. Absolutely. If you ever want to donate to the fundraiser, you can donate, and all the money goes into this fund. So any bits, any subscriptions, like bits that you cheer, any donations, all that stuff goes into the fundraiser, and then I match all of that money. And it's going to go to an organization, which is a registered charitable organization. So I'm not just like giving it to, Uncle Bob down the street or anything like that. They're going to be a registered charity. And their primary focus needs to be that they are increasing diversity in tech. To something I believe very strongly in. So Restarted just subscribed. That's awesome. Thank you for that. So I'm going to match that subscription. So thank you. Appreciate that. So yeah, all that's going into the fundraiser. And so this whole month of October, every single time I stream, I normally stream on Sundays and Thursdays, but I'm going to be streaming a couple of off hours. Last night we did some Lego and some 3D printing. I'm probably going to do, like on the weekend, I might do some like an extra stream where I'm actually building a 3D printer. I might do some of that. And maybe some more Lego, because I've got this life-size replica. Did you ever watch the Mandalorian series?
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. So as part of a giveaway that I won, I got a life-size replica of the Dark Saber in Lego.
Oh wow.
So I started assembling it last night. This is just half of the hilt so far.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so it's going to be like a full life-size thing, and I want to try and hang it over the lights behind me. I can. If it's not too heavy, I'm gonna see if I can like make some mounts or whatever that I can put in the wall and like mount it in front of the lights. I think that'll be fun.
It's gonna look great.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, the model of it looks really, really fantastic. So awesome. So congrats, Restarted. Congratulations on the giveaway. We will get that in your direction. So I'm ordering the flat cardboard envelope things, and I'll be packing that stuff in there. I'll be mailing those out probably a couple of times throughout the month, and we'll get that shipped out. It's only heavy till you learn it.
It's
okay.
a Mandalorian joke.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And they actually say on the instructions, is like, the good news about this is you get to build your own. You don't have to like kill anybody in combat to win it. But yeah, the series was so good. It was really, really good. I'm excited to see where they're going to take it from here. And all the spin-offs. Are you watching the Andor series?
Not yet. I've been sick the last week, and I got into Cowboy Bebop, the anime, which
I've never watched it, but everybody raves about it. I've never watched it.
It's very good.
Yeah,
it's very good. Yeah, it's a little violent, but every chapter is happy in the end.
Okay,
I like it. I feel very good about it.
Yeah, I'll check it out. Awesome.
Yes, I enjoyed it.
Good deal. Well, I think we're going to start to wrap up. So appreciate everybody dropping by. Esteban, again, thank you for your time. It's always good to hear, especially other people that work at startups and whatever. That's something that's very near and dear to my heart, like working at startups and doing the startup grind and just getting involved in that sort of thing. So it's always good to kind of meet other people, especially founders. I love staying in contact with founders, so I'll definitely be connecting with you on LinkedIn. Love to have you back on the stream sometime. But thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Love hearing other people's journeys into tech, even if they're kind of the more like the old school traditional, like I went and got a degree and now I'm in programming kind of thing. I think that's fantastic. So
I almost didn't get the degree, but yeah. Thanks a lot, Ian, for your time. Guys, if you're starting in tech, Watermelon Tools is designed for that. Like, we're trying to help developers understand code better. So check us out on watermelontools.com. Thanks a lot for your time. Congratulations on the giveaway, and I'll check out the new Mandalorian series. Thank you.
Yeah. So the new series is Andor. I've only watched the first episode. It was pretty good. I got to get caught up on it again. And let's go. I think we'll raid. Oh, Christy's doing code reviews. Midnight Simon's on doing the code. Oh, actually, no, he's doing co-working and he's on a Pomodoro thing, so we won't raid into Simon. Let's see. I think we'll raid into Chrissy Codes. So Chrissy Codes is doing like code reviews. So she's having people submit stuff, and she's learning Python, and so she's asking people specifically like, hey, can you send me a link to your Python code so I can learn what it's doing and like learn about how you think about writing your code. So she's doing code reviews on her channel. So we're gonna go right over to Chrissy. Also, just very fantastic person. Loves interacting with her channel and her audience over there. Very friendly person. So we'll go right over to Chrissy. Yeah, we'll see you all over there in a couple of moments. Esteban, thank you again for your time. Thank you so much. I will definitely, yeah, I'll definitely be streaming on Sunday, but I'll probably have another stream between now and then where I'm just doing like goofy stuff around here. And every stream I do, I'll be doing a giveaway. So come back, and all of these entries are going to go into the monthly giveaway at the end of the month, which I'm not telling you what you're going to win, but it's going to be big. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, so follow me over to Chrissy, and we'll see you all over there. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.